us are, of course, very concerned about air quality and air pollution problem in Hong Kong. It's been a long-standing problem. And in the past, I think the government has always tried to introduce new measures to control air pollution. Of course, there are also the regional angle of air pollution problem in Hong Kong that we need to address. But I think what this study is trying to demonstrate is that other than just knowing what's the scale of air pollution and the numbers that we've been getting from the government, I think we also have to think about air pollution and the connection to ourselves, to our health. And the starting point is to understand how much air pollution we are being exposed to on a daily basis. So we need some help in terms of information and maybe even devices to collect these data, and then so that we can use it in a personalized way, that it can help us to make the right decision at different times of day and in different locations. Why I mention this is because right now we have rely on data provided by the Hong Kong government, the Environmental Protection Department, their air quality monitoring system network. We have, correct me if I'm wrong, we have 16 monitoring stations altogether in Hong Kong. 3 of them on the roadside, and 13 of them, of course, is what we call general stations. But then, of course, these locations are fixed. And in some districts, we don't have any stations. So when we as individuals want to get a reference about what's the air quality in my district, my neighborhood, very often I have to refer to the information provided by this system, but use information from stations that's closest to my location, to where I live. But we found out from this project actually that sometimes there's some variation. So we will go into that later. But the concept is that with the fixed stations, it provides a ballpark, a very general picture about the situation of air quality in Hong Kong, which is already very useful. But when we want to go further down into district level or even to the neighborhood level, we cannot get a sense of the air quality based on those data. And that's where and when these small sensors comes in to the picture. With the sensors, of course, it opens up opportunities to collect a different level of information, which is more related to our exposure to air pollution. Now, but then some of you might ask, is it accurate? Can we rely on those information? And if it's not accurate, then how could it help us make the right decision in terms of where to go or where not to go, given if the air pollution situation is really bad? So I think this is a host of questions that we try to answer. And the way to answer it is we thought a few years ago to conduct some pilot study. Okay, if we can put together something that can be used as a sensor to go and collect data related to exposure level to air quality and air pollution, and then try to analyze the data and try to find out whether there are discrepancies in terms of what our data shows and what the government monitoring stations data is showing. Then we will get a better sense about whether we need more of the same kind of data coming from small sensors, but then what are the limitations in terms of those data can tell us. So this is what was in our mind before we started the whole project. And in terms of the objectives, as I said, we want to use some portable, smaller devices so that people can carry around the city 24 hours a day, and then to continuously monitor air quality situation. It basically tells the level of exposure to PM2.5 in this study, which is a very useful pollutant as a surrogate or as a demonstration of the level of air pollution that we are concerned in Hong Kong. And secondly, and which is also very important, is that we are not just collecting air quality information, we are also collecting activities data, which means if I am exposed to a variation or fluctuation of air quality situation, but I also want to know where was I when I was being exposed to, say, poor air quality. Now, with the activity data, it can tell, and we can, of course, synchronize 2 sets of data. We can tell, oh, you were exposed to especially poor air quality while you were in this particular location or in this road junction or whatever, or in which district. Now, these are the information that actually the current air quality data provided by the government is not being able to tell us. This is something extra. This is what I would say an add-on to what we already have. But these additional information will help us understand a lot more about the health risk that we are being exposed to due to the level of pollution that we are being exposed to. So, I think this is like a new angle, but I think it's a very important angle for us to understand. With all these data being combined, then we'll find out the average exposure level for us to PM2.5 in different locations, and also in which type of transportation mode, because this is usually part of our daily activities. We will do a lot of travel in different transportation mode, and we will show you, whether it's cleaner in the buses or ferry or MTR, or if we are walking, is it dangerous, so on and so forth. So, the results will follow, but the concept is we want to combine activity and exposure and tell you your risk to air pollution in different locations and in different transportation mode, or even in different days of the week, because there will be a difference, because you'll be in different places as well, comparing weekdays and weekends. So this is the reason why we want to do this research. So without further ado, I will hand over to Dr. Zhi Ning. Now I want to thank City University and his team, because they've got a team of 8 to 10 people, I think, and they have been working very diligently over the last few years, designing the device. Of course, it's been improved over time, and also to have the team to do the analysis. I also want to thank some of my colleagues, former colleagues at Civic Exchange, because they have also been involved in the study and the survey. So, without their help, we will not be able to get all the results and then have something to share with you today. So maybe I will now hand over to Zhi, and he will talk about the study design. Of course, the lunch boxes here, different colors, maybe it means something different, I don't know. And also to share the key findings of the study.
All right, thanks. Probably I can go from here. Now, the starting point of the whole project, probably the reason why everybody is interested here, is just like Simon just mentioned, we're concerned about air pollution in Hong Kong. We want to know what is the air quality around us. As an indication, should we go for jogging in the morning? Should I go outside for outdoor activities, even for our kids, our children? So that's a starting point. But I guess the very important gap nowadays is when we look around, what are the possible information that you can get, you can access? So the only thing that we can know is from our government monitoring stations. If you can search online, actually every 1 hour, you can see different districts, the air pollution concentrations. But those are only numbers that for our reference. For non-experts, those numbers may mean little to you. Besides, and from our understanding, which is also the reason why we want to do this study, is there's a huge difference between what you see outside versus your 24 hours, different micro-environments you go through. You take a ferry, you take a bus, you take the MTR, you sit in the office, you sleep at home. So many different environments, when you combine together, that is actually your real health risks. That's not what can be represented by the government stations. So that's a starting point of everything. So this is the starting point. The box is a lunch box size with different colors. Color doesn't mean much, but we have different volunteers with different preference. So we have a choice for them. It's a luxury for them to pick up different colors. I like blue, by the way. So the portable devices is a key point. How we can move the very big chunk of the big instruments and combine them into such a small box, and also make sure that data quality is fine, is comparable to our real government station data. Now, this is the basis of why we want to do this. So what this one can do is very important feature. We hope to be able to carry this one and go with you everywhere. When you work in the office, you can put them on your table. When you sleep at home, you can put next to your room. You can carry them next to your backpack, etc. So that's the design features. We wanted this one to be very portable. And also, because the data will come to our server second by second. Because by minutes, by seconds, you will move by bus, you will move, you'll walk by different environments. So we need to collect this very high time resolution information. because the data is huge, it's impossible for us to go back and check the data after 1 week or after 1 month. So it's a very important feature. This one is just like a smartphone. This one can talk to internet. So this one can talk to internet in a way we know actually, even without looking at the data, looking at the box, we know from our own database, from our server, we know exactly where the box is and what is the pollution level in that environment. So we can have this data transmission function at the same time. In the study design, we hope to cover quite a few the very significant microenvironments in Hong Kong, like offices, different homes, commuting modes, and schools, indoor and outdoor, etc. Even though today is talking about the air pollution, but the summit just to give very important concept. I hope this concept can be passed over to our public, which is the air pollution is only one aspect, talking about the health risks. It's only one aspect. The other important aspect is about where you are and how long you stay in those environments. Simple example, we can stay in a nice office with a good filtration system for 24 hours. You're still safe, even though outside it may be a gloomy, dirty day. Because that one tells you where you are is more important than what the numbers are. It tells you how long you stay in this environment. That's what we call as a time activity. Time activity. For this box, not only the air pollution sensor that you see here and some other pollution sensors, we also have additional sensors. For example, the light, the noise, and the motion sensor, and also the GPS location. Now these 4 different things combined, we can actually give a very good indicator that you are sleeping at home. I hope you don't snore in the night. At least it's a quiet, it's a dark environment. When you work in the office, it still have the bright, maybe quiet, but they don't move at all. You don't carry this one around, you put them on your table. If you carry them and walk to your lunch place, you probably will hear different noises and also evaporating a lot. So this combination of information is also a very important aspect. So for us to understand better what is the time activity of different people. Now these 2 pieces of information combined together, that's something we want to get. That is something actually very important for us to understand what is the individual's health risks for people in Hong Kong. And because this way you can see the relative size, this is very small. Usually what people do, they carry this one onto the buckle, this one next to the backpack. And this is my little daughter, 2 years old, and she carries this one to her kindergarten as well, nursery as well. It's her first experiment. In terms of the study design, we have over 70 people, 70 participants, lasting for almost half a year. They carry this on every day, and it really thanks for the volunteers. Not the, even though we see this box is very small compared with the big boxes, the big real instruments, but still they are not as light as your smartphone. So there are still some quite tremendous efforts from our volunteers. So they carry the boxes during the sampling cycle from Thursday to Monday, covering different weekdays and weekends. So that's kind of a very representative feature for their own time activities. At the same time, we have this very important concept. I hope we can also pass this information to our public, which is a PIE, the personal integrated exposure. What does this one mean? It's actually very simple. Just like I mentioned, we have 2 different aspects. One is about the air pollution concentrations, so how dirty the pollution the air is. Second is about the time that you stay in this microenvironment. Now these 2 pieces of information combined together, that's our real health risks. It's not about the concentration alone. So these 2 combined, we can say it is a PIE as an indicator for health risks due to the exposure to the pollution. Now what is the result that we find out? There are quite something interesting as expected, and also there are quite some interesting not as expected, which is a surprise. Now for our volunteers, we have 70 plus people, and you can see they scatter all around in Hong Kong in different districts, Kowloon, Hong Kong Island, New Territories, probably 1/3 each. And we also see they commute by different modes, just like every Hong Kong residents. I take MTR every day, almost for a long time, and some people take buses across the harbour, etc. You can see we have a lot of people taking MTR. Some of them choose to walk. It's a very healthy way by exercising-wise, but is that a healthy way in terms of the air pollution-wise? So that's something we are interested to know. But it constitutes quite a big portion. Over 1/3, about 30% of the they walk to the office if they live next to the office places. The buses and other transport mode. And here we see there is a very small portion which is by ferry. Okay, some of our volunteers they live in the island and they work in other places. Because you will take a ferry, which is very interesting transport mode for us to study. We always say when we have this PM2.5, PM2.5, it's been mentioned many times in many years. We know there are two important bars here. One is talking about the WHO guideline, the AQG. The other one is talking about Hong Kong, our local air quality objectives. Now these two are very important bars for us to evaluate. Are we locally in a good amiable environment, or are we global scale, in a good global scale, we are in a good condition? So when we look at all the people in Hong Kong, all the volunteers that we studied in this specific project, we can see, very interestingly, this is a bar for the Hong Kong AQ, for the Hong Kong AQO. This is a bar for the Hong Kong AQG. There's probably two messages I want to bring up. One, you can see the red one versus black one. Probably you can see with your eyes which one is taller. That tells you which one is higher in terms of the pollution levels, right? So the red one is actually representing what we really see from different monitoring stations. They are more or less actually in a marginal way, and for sure they are below our Hong Kong local AQO, or I'll call it objective, most of them. But when you look at these black ones, which is representing our individual participants, the volunteers, when they go through their 24 hours into different environments, they walk next to the roadside, they probably go to some different districts with different levels of air pollution. You can see, actually, we see they are actually higher than what we see from this government monitoring station data. Now, this is a message actually, to our surprise, statistically, there is a difference. There is a difference. And at the same time, you can see some of the bars actually beyond the WHO, the guideline. Now, this is a very interesting thing for us to get a first-hand information about when you have a group of people, they all live in Hong Kong, like you and me, like everybody. But when we go through the same 24 hours in Hong Kong, we may actually experience totally different environments. And that environments can be translated into your different health risks. And our next job actually from the next slide is to identify when we see there is a potentially higher health risks, where do they come from? Why? So that's the message we want to see from the next slide. Now here is probably another interesting figure that we can see. Now let me give a very brief explanation of what is this the figure is about. Now this is a comparison between our EPD monitoring station data versus our individual who carries our box, who goes through their 24 hours. What is the integrated, the average 24 hours, their potential exposure to PM2.5 compared with the EPD station? Previous figure was only very general overview of how things can be different. And here you can see how much they are different. Now this, for example, this guy who spent 24 hours, who lives in the Shenshibou area, and you can see there's about number 30 for the outside station. And that's a number we believe, before we did the study, that's a number we used to identify this person. What is the potential health risk for this individual subject, for this individual person? But after we do the study, we identify, because he has been staying in very well-controlled, well-purified environment, offices and homes, we can see actually potentially their risk is very low. It's only below 10. So the comparison between here and here is huge. So that tells you even though outside can be very polluted, but the inside, maybe you're still safe. Maybe you're still very safe. That depends on what kind of environments you are. So this is a good example. There's another case which we see. Now this is also the person who lives in Shenshibou, the blue points. During that day, that 24 hours, you can see the average is only 7 or 8. It's actually way below our WHO guideline. But look at himself or herself. Actually, she or he has exposed to pretty high numbers, almost close to 70. So you can see there's two different data sets here, two different pieces of information. One, this one is telling him or telling her he's very safe because outside is very clean. But at the same time, when he spent his own 24 hours, he has gone through different micro-environments, waiting for the buses, maybe taking ferries. So these environments actually potentially can have much higher health risks compared with the government data. So this is very important information we hope to also pass to our public, that more information is important to identify your own health risk in order to protect yourself and in general to protect the public health. Now, if you put these two, in the very beginning I mentioned there are two important aspects. One is about the real pollution concentration levels. The second is about the time activity. When we combine them, we say it's a PIE, it's a personal integrated exposure. It's interesting, is the word PI. That's not PI, that's a personal integrated exposure. You can see from these statistics, when we look at how much time people spend in different environments, so homes and offices, when they combined, plus some of the indoor environments. If you separate these different environments into two, one is indoor, one is outdoor. The time allocation between indoor and outdoor is almost 80% versus 20%. In other words, when you have such a large group of subjects, the people in Hong Kong, over 80% of the time we spend indoors. Can be different kind of indoors, homes and offices. But outside is only a very small portion. So how representative can the outside information represent you in terms of your health risks? That's something we want to ask ourselves to answer. In terms of the PIE contribution, which is indication of which environment might be more safer or more risky for you. So you can see the homes versus offices. Now, most of our offices have been very well controlled in terms of the central ventilation system, in terms of the pollution control. You can see even though we spend over 30% of the time in offices, but our potential health risk is only 10%. The 3 times difference. That means these offices environment are very, very clean. Potentially they are very safe. But for some of the homes can be very different kinds of homes. Some homes can be open to the outside. Some homes maybe we choose to cook ourselves. So there's different kinds of possibilities in homes. But the homes, if we don't control well, you can see they actually can contribute more to the time that you spend, the 40%. Can be contribute more to your potential health risks. So other possible, even though they spend in different environments in less time, so you can see still they have a different contribution to your health risks. So we have 24 hours for every single person. God is very fair to everyone, but your 24 hours may spend in different locations and in different environments. And in those environments, when you have a choice, maybe you have to choose to go for somewhere that you know might be safer, that you know might be cleaner. That's an important message I hope we can pass to our public. Now this one is talking about the PM2.5 exposure level. I will go through this one very quickly. This is talking about when you go through outdoor, indoor, homes and offices, what might be the potential concentration levels. Now offices right here is well below our even WHO guideline, the AQG. That's recommended for the best level at the current the global scale. What is the safe or the recommended concentration levels. So our office is actually pretty good. They are very, very low. But for the homes and the different environments, sometimes they are very good, sometimes can scatter to higher levels. There's a lot of span of variations for different people in Hong Kong. And same thing for the weekend, that you can see when we choose to do different activities during the weekends. You can also see very different span of concentration levels from below 20 to above 120 for the same homes, also for the different community modes. This is a distribution of the PM2.5 concentration. The same message from before. I'll pass this one very quickly. If you have a question, we can discuss later on. The same message here is to tell us if WHO AQG is right here, some of our people in Hong Kong, they're below, which is a better air quality. And most of us actually above this WHO guideline. So that's a very simple message from this diagram. So when we go through the different transport mode, which is almost everybody in Hong Kong does, we have ferry, walking, and different minibuses. So we see, we did the statistics, when we have so much data points, so many different pieces of information. When we do the statistics, we see there is a big difference between different modes. We take a ferry, potentially have a higher concentration. Second, by walking. So the walking, we know the walkability is very important theme we want to push forward for Hong Kong. But I guess it's also important to know where we better walk and where we better choose not to work. That's the important message I see. And of course, there were other different transport modes. I think the next one, we want to talk about the recommendation. This is basically the results we have seen. I'll quickly go through this, maybe some of you can supplement it later on. So after we finish the study, after we see, and everybody will have seen the results, some of the results very interesting to our own surprise. We never expected it before. So starting from here, what do we see we should do as an individual, as a public? Now, AQMS data, which is air quality monitoring station data from our government regulatory, the EPD station data, they don't necessarily represent you or myself, our personal exposure in many, many locations. You can see in different ways, they scatter very huge span in concentration levels. And also, for the first time, we implemented this very, very compact and also highly integrated small sensor box. We found that this can be very useful way to collect the data and can supplement or as a complementary data set for our EPD stations. And also very important to fill up the so-called data gaps. Data gaps means something we don't know, we hope to find a way to know. Now, we still have to be aware of the limitation of the small sensors. This is in general a very big topic. And in our group, actually in CTU, we spend quite a lot of efforts working on this stuff. And this is one of our projects. We also want to see the potential can be very encouraging. There are many things possible from this point on. How can we make use of this potential? The personalized exposure data can help us identify the potential health risks and also can help you make your own informed decision. And we always say the government needs to be informed when they make a policy, make a decision. I guess for individuals, we also need to be informed when you make your own choice, when you choose to do jogging next to the table road or next to the corner road. Maybe that's not a good idea. Small sensor, last point, the small sensors has improved over time. We see a lot of potential. And currently, we in the university and also working with the Civic Exchange and many other organizations, we hope this technology can benefit the people in Hong Kong in general to improve our better living and also improve the society. So that's our point. What we're going to do next in terms of this development. Now, this box is a lunch box size, and it must be a really heavy lunch because it's a 1.5 or 1.2 kilogram. In the next generation, as you can see, we will make this one really like a smartphone size. To be more precise, if anyone smokes, actually it's like a secret box size. And this is a feasible technologically, and we have already made our prototype. As you can see, the sensors can go from that size to the size right next to your finger. Something I can easily carry around my neck, and this one can actually connect to my cell phone. I can know right away what is localized information in different places. And when you carry this one for some time, for 1 week, 2 weeks, it will learn where you're going to go and what the potential places that might be health risky for you. You can make recommendations for you in the future. In other words, it's more like a smart sensor for the next generation. I hope this is the last slide. Okay. In terms of the government part, somebody want to do all?
Yeah, maybe if I may jump in, maybe just to supplement Dr. Ning's points about air quality monitoring stations data and the small sensors data. Okay, of course we want to have a few more monitoring stations in Hong Kong, but number one, it's very expensive to build. Number two, we need to find the space, the location to build. Even if you identify a plot of land, maybe they want to build some flats rather than putting in monitoring stations. So that's an issue. And number three, even if we have like 5 more monitoring stations in Hong Kong, your location, your neighborhood could still be far away from the closest monitoring stations, and whether their data would be representative enough for you as a reference to your exposure to air quality is always going to be an issue. So if we think about how we can supplement those information, and that's where the small sensors comes in, because if it becomes smaller and lighter and more accurate, then just like smartphone, every one of us can carry one, and then it can give us instant, personalized information about air quality. And then from there, we can make a decision or a judgment. Should I go to this area, or should I go to the sports ground to do exercise, or should I go to the other one? Or, if I have the information for me to change my decision, then, this is the use of this information. So this is the reason why we are trying to look for some different solutions, not to replace, now I need to emphasize, not to replace government's data, because their data will always serve different purposes, and it's very useful and important. So we are not saying, okay, we can do away with government's data, we don't need to look at AQHI. No, we still need to use AQHI. We still need to believe government's data from the monitoring stations. But there are data gaps that we can fill in with these small sensors. Now then the question is, can we make sure that it is high quality controlled? Is it accurate? And maybe Zhi, you can talk a little bit more about the calibration, how to make sure that these are reliable information that we can use. But other than that, you can maybe come back later. But I think the key really is the message is, we're not saying that this is good enough to replace. We can take away the stations. No. But this is something that we believe can provide more information for us, every one of us, to make the right decision every day. If we want to, go somewhere and do something, before making that decision, we can basically check the exposure level, like a forecast, and then we decide, should we go, should we do it? I think every one of you maybe have faced that kind of dilemma, right? Maybe should I send my kids to sports day if government is saying air quality is really bad, but maybe even on a nice day in that particular area the exposure level is still very bad, and you want to avoid it. So this is the kind of application that we're thinking about. So that's one thing. Now, if I may finish the recommendation first. Now, we always believe that Hong Kong should try to tighten our air quality standards. And of course, the government is now undergoing a review process. And hopefully the next few years, because they are doing a 5-year cycle, and right now we're at the beginning of the new cycle, so government has been conducting and coordinating meetings from different experts, and they will soon engage a consultant to come up with recommendations and also potential solutions to further address air pollution problem in Hong Kong. I think we need everyone to push and to put pressure on the government to make sure that we want better standard. Now, what's the better standard? Of course, WHO's World Health Organization's AQG, the air quality guideline, that's the benchmark. That's based on extensive science. That's telling us this is possibly the safe level for different pollutants. So that if we have that kind of pollution level, that's safe for you to go out. So this is what we want to attain in Hong Kong, because Hong Kong is a prosperous, it's a world city, so we want to have good air quality standards. Now we are still quite far off from those standards. So I think Civic Exchange and Civic U definitely would want the government to make sure that in the next round of consultation, make sure that they will come up with a tighter standard to protect us. Because right now, if the standard is loose, by looking at AQO, and if we're doing well with AQO, it actually doesn't mean that we are having safe air. It's actually giving you the wrong perception and wrong information. So we want everyone to have accurate and sensible information, so that the real state of air quality, so that you can protect yourself. Okay, so that's the second point. The last point, we talk a lot about outdoor air quality in the past, because we know when we go out with traffic, with other pollution sources like the power plant and the ships, we will be exposed to poor air quality. But in this study, we found out that actually we spend a lot of time indoor. It could be your home, it could be a shopping mall, it could be a gym, it could be a sport complex. Now, we know the government actually has promoted indoor air quality with offices, maybe with schools, with some indoor venues and public areas. But they haven't done enough in terms of household indoor air quality. So this is our message. Yesterday actually there's a ceremony related to indoor air quality in offices and schools and buildings. That's great, but I think we need more. We need some focus now on household air quality issues. I guess some of you might have some air purifier at home. Now, whether it works or not, now I can't tell because I'm not a technician. But what is important is we need to have the awareness. Indoor air quality is still very much related to your well-being and your health. It's somewhat related to outdoor air quality, but depending on the setting, depending on what are you cooking a lot or what kind of gas you're using, it will also affect indoor air quality. There are other activities, there are other setup that might affect indoor air quality. But I think the starting point, and that's our third recommendation, is we need to put more emphasis to understand and to push the government to try and help us to do more in terms of improving indoor air quality. Because what we have seen from the study finding is that that's making a huge contribution to our PIE, to our personal integrated exposure. And so I think these are the 3 points that we really want to push forward with the study results. Can you go back and talk about the calibration and accuracy?
Yeah, that's actually very, very important. I have to say it's very, very important. Because I can imagine from this point when we say small sensors can fill up some of the data gaps, I can imagine probably some of our general public will say I can buy easily from the market, probably 100 Hong Kong dollars I can buy a sensor. Can I use those pieces of information? Now, we have to be careful here. In a way, the sensors, they are not sensors alone. Around the sensors, we need to have a set of, for example, the algorithm for the corrections. We need to have a set of protocols to make sure the data is comparable and usable, to make sure the data quality. And there is a huge difference between 2 different kinds of sensors. One, let's say, the consumer grade sensors, the general for the indication purpose. The other type of sensors is what we are using and what we're working on. It's called professional sensors. Professional sensors requires attention, requires calibration. So that's something I think very important concept that we need to be careful. We don't want to give the impression that when our general public, when they realize and it's useful, they can buy from the market directly, then they go and say, why my home is 1,000 or 500? Is anything wrong with my homes? So the wrong data sometimes can be worse than no data. So that's probably the message I hope we can pass to our general public. And of course, throughout the project, a lot of efforts actually. We built the box starting from scratch, not because too many colors to choose, but the inside is really difficult to integrate a lot of things into one box. So that's only one side of the effort. And the other side of the effort is actually to make sure these sensors can read properly. In a way, they are comparable to our EPD monitoring station data. We have to go through a lot of QAQs, the quality control process. Okay, so that's some probably message I hope we don't miss to our public.